Good morning. It is 6:35 a.m. on Friday, November 11th, 2016. I'm Christiana Ellis and I just got up. This is 5 more minutes. So, hockey games take longer than I thought. Actually, I'm overstating that. More to the point, it was really just all of the stuff about like getting home afterwards that took longer than I thought. And so I was up later than I meant to be. And so just in the general continued theme of like not getting enough sleep, that's not working so well. Um, I'm definitely convinced now though that like on nights where I'm not actually out doing something, when I'm just hanging out at home, just watching TV or playing video games or working on something else, I need to be proactive about getting to bed earlier. But tonight I'm going to a birthday party, so I'll get me out late again. But then again, tomorrow I don't have anything in particular scheduled, so I'm going to probably try to catch up on some sleep tomorrow. So today, though, the hockey game was fine. By the way, the Bruins just kind of dominated the other team, so it was uh, nice in the sense they won, but it was not a close game. Uh, but so today I want to go ahead and review Doctor Strange, the latest entry in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I talked on it just briefly yesterday. Um, for anyone totally unfamiliar with the property, Doctor Strange is a character that dates back to the 60s, I believe, in the Marvel comic books. And the origin, his origin is told pretty straight here. There's like it's updated to modern day, but other than that, it's actually pretty much just note for note, at least up until the point where he arrives, um, where and starts to begin his training, as where they reinvent a little bit. So, basic idea: he is a super fancy, big deal neurosurgeon, very arrogant, very reckless in his personal life, which leads to him getting into a car accident that basically messes up his hands. Like they're very there's a lot of nerve damage, and so it would basically be impossible for him to continue as a surgeon. And so he is distraught by this, starts seeking any possible medical remedy, which none of them work, until eventually he hears tell of and in like a healing that should have been impossible from someone who is paralyzed, and so he wants to pursue that. Turns out it's done by this whole mystical power in Kamartaj, which is in Kathmandu. In so he goes there, uh, learns, hey, look, there's magic, and I'm gonna learn that magic, and we move from there. So like as a character, Doctor Strange is not necessarily revolutionary, partly just because in a lot of ways he's kind of just Tony Stark again. In the sense that we've got the whole thing of rich entitled guy who's really arrogant but super talented, um, and comes to a place where he's been humbled a little bit, but he's still kind of got an arrogance to him. But he has decided that doing good in the world with this newfound ability is what he wants to do. And so, hey, that's great. I don't want to criticize. I just mean that it's kind of the difference with Doctor Strange is that we now, for the first time in the Marvel universe, we're dealing straight up with like magic now, even though they're kind of washing it with extra dimensional energy and that sort of thing. But it's magic. Like even Thor was spun as like, well, no, it's like he's an alien, and it's this alien civilization that had spent time with Earth, and that's why they were called gods and so on. Um, I feel like I'm not being very organized in my thinking this morning. Okay, so Um, so some of the let's talk just a little bit about the Ancient One, because this was an area of some controversy during the film's production. So one of the things that's a little bit difficult about adapting Doctor Strange is that you can't help but notice when you look at the source material that by today's standards, there's some not great racial dynamics in it. It plays really hard to the cliche of the Tibetan guru, and that sort of thing. But then also kind of the whole, um, uh, and so like that element of it. Is, is potentially troubling. He also, Doctor Strange also has like this servant Wong who works for him, and like so some of that stuff like it's not inherently bad, but tricky territory ought to be navigated carefully. But here's the additional 21st century nuance: is that China is a huge market for films these days, and stuff related to Tibet, which is where the original inspiration from the Ancient One came from. That stuff is touchy for China. And so, in an effort to basically not make China mad, they decided instead of having the Ancient One be Tibetan, they cast Tilda Swinton, who is playing like a Celtic Ancient One as a woman. And in some ways, so like I wish I liked her in the role. I liked the character. It's just a shame that there are those that unpleasant baggage associated with it, because not only so essentially we've taken one of the few characters in the story that was originally non-white and made them white. So that piece of it is not great, and I think that's worth talking about. But I will say that with that in mind, that I'm not supporting that decision necessarily. I will say that she does a good job. I don't know that anyone was really expecting that she wouldn't. She's great. I like Tilda Swinton. And for that matter, too, they established that Wong is not just like Doctor Strange's servant. He runs this mystical library. He is kind of an ally that Doctor Strange has to kind of win the favor of, and win the approval. And then it makes it clear towards the end that it's kind of like they're working together. And even though Doctor Strange is kind of the marquee guy, it's obvious that he does need help, and Wong is actually someone capable of giving that help, as opposed to just, well, I need a manservant to iron my clothes and bring me food. That's not what's going on there. So that's good. We also have Chiwetel Ejiofor, who many people will remember as the operative in Serenity. He's playing Mordo, who is one of the other students of the Ancient One, and his character is made substantially more complex in the movie than his comic book counterpart. And so there's some really cool dynamics there. There's interesting secondary characters. Rachel McAdams I like as Christine Palmer, who is kind of sort of the love interest of Doctor Strange. I say sort of only just because she's really not in the movie very much. But she provides this link back to the real world that Doctor Strange does need a little bit. Just because it would be easy to just be flung too far into the realm of fantasy to lose all sort of relatable human contact. So, all that stuff is fine to good. But as I said yesterday, what makes the movie real, like the real standout star of the movie, is just all the ways that the magic and the other dimensions and the spells and so on are visually depicted in just a really cool psychedelic way. Spells that rotate the local source of gravity, and this cloak of levitation, and manipulating dimensions and casting these arcane mandalas of energy. All that stuff is just super cool. It's a lot of fun, and there's also some nice complexity in that. Yeah, it's good stuff. I liked it. I thought it is a worthy new entry into the franchise. I'd probably put it in the middle of the pack somewhere in terms of my favorite. But considering that out of all of the movies, even like of the current Marvel Cinematic Universe crop, even my least favorite ones, I think are still pretty good. And so I'd say I'd put it in the middle. All right, so I've got to go ahead and get ready for work, so I'm going to leave it there. But we'll talk to you guys tomorrow for 5 more minutes.